Alright, so hello and welcome. I wanted to get at least one. Oh, my butt. Oh, I usually have a lot more fiber in my diet, and so my bum is aching. No, I probably don't know if I should share that with you, but I did. So anyway, I'm so tired. I wanted to work on something today, just anything for an hour. I'll set a timer. Well, actually, we won't set a timer. We'll just try to solve these. I probably will solve these relatively quickly. So here we go. We have, excuse me, count objects. This challenge we learn about iterating over objects. Check the attached tutorial for more details. Complete the function in the editor. It has one parameter in array A of objects. Each object in the array has two integer properties denoted by x and y. The function must return a count of all such objects. O in array A that satisfy O.x equals O.y. The first line contains an integer denoting n. Each of the n subsequent lines contains two space-separated integers describing the values of x and y. Return, the count of the total number of objects O such that O.x equals O.y. Lock stub code in the editor prints the return values down to standard out. Okay, I guess each object is, sure. Two objects O that satisfy objects 0 and 2, return 2. I mean, sure, I guess. Okay. Objects.push. Okay, interesting. Objects. So we can do for const object of objects. I mean, there are a few things you can do. You can write a basic for loop and just say if object x equals object dot y plus count, return count. I think this will work. Let's give that a shot. Yeah. There's another way to do this though, and that would be more idiomatic. So you can do, it's almost the same thing, but you could say for each object stuff for each, and that would entail something like this. And then you want object. There you go. How about that? It's a little more idiomatic, I think. Yeah, it's a little more, yeah, what you would normally see in JavaScript. I think that's okay. I think that's fine. We can do it that way. There's like a filter in JavaScript. Create a rectangle object. Come back to that in a moment. Filter is probably what I want. Yeah, let's try words.filter.length. Let's try it that way. That might be better. Yet another approach. And usually scripting languages, you can do something like this. You can omit some of the parts of this. I don't know if length works or, yeah, there you go. I like that better. That's probably the best way to do this, or one of the better ways to do this. Alright, create a rectangle object. In this challenge we practice creating objects. Check out the attached tutorial for more details. Complete the function in the editor. It has two parameters A and B and must return an object modeling a rectangle that has the following properties. Length, this value is equal to A. Width, this value is equal to B. Perimeter, this value is equal to 2 times AB plus B area, A times B. Excuse me, the names of the object's properties must be spelled correctly to pass this challenge. First line contains integer A, second line B, AB, return object that has the property specified above, locked code, prints the returned objects, length, width, perimeter area to standard out. So 4, 5, 4, 5, 18, 20. Sure, do we have, excuse me. Oh, okay. Sure. So I think you can say like this dot, area, this dot, what were the different properties? Area, length, width, perimeter area. Alright, I think you do it this way. Length, width, perimeter, area. This is just a rectangle, right? And is A the length or B the length? How do we? Length is A. Okay. So that means that B must be the width. I think it's as simple as that. Yep. I think that's all you need. Also, buttons. Okay. Count objects. What do I want to do here? Oh. I don't know. Just leave that then. It's fine. Buttons. Let's do another day. Let's do classes. We do day 8. Buttons. In this challenge we lay out buttons inside a div, modify their labels after each click event on one of the buttons. Check out the attached tutorial for learning materials. We want to create 9 buttons enclosed in a div laid out so they form a 3x3 grid. Each button has a distinct label from 1 to 9, and the labels on the outer buttons must rotate in a clockwise direction each time we click the middle button. Complete the code in the editor so that it satisfies the following criteria. Initial state, the initial layout looks like this. Element IDs, each element in the document must have an ID specified below. Excuse me. Button container div's ID must be buttons. The initial inner HTML labels must have the following button IDs. Styling the documents. Elements must have the following styles. The width of buttons is 75% relative to the document. Body's width. Each button 1 through 9, satisfies the following. The width is 30% relative to its container width. The height is 48 pixels. The font size is 24 pixels. Behavior each time button 5 is clicked. The inner HTML text on the outer grid's outer buttons, button 1 through 9, must rotate in the clockwise direction. Do not update the button IDs. JS and CSS are in the different directories. Link tag, provide the CSS file path, and script tag to provide the JS file path. Initially the buttons look like this, one click, look like that, and go. And go. Okay, so buttons grid. So we want in the body, we're going to have a JavaScript tag. JavaScript, and it specifies the source is just JS buttons grid JS. Do we need anything more than the source? Type. Yeah, I do need type text Java. Type equals text JavaScript. Sure. Then we have, excuse me, in the head, we want to link our CSS. All right, that's in the head, so link. And the other, it's // yeah. What? Oh, doesn't have closing tags for link. Okay, sure. And there's rel is what relative to? I don't know what rel is. href and type. What does that mean? What do these things stand for? Relationship. Oh, I see. Okay, relationship, and the other one is href and type. Type I get. That's the kind of text it is, what kind of file it is, really. Relationship is a style sheet, and href is the reference, but and then, oh, okay. URL, that's all, just href. I guess you just call it HTML reference, and then the other one is HTML reference, and then the other one is relationship, and the last one is type. The type of the element. Fair enough. For links and for the JavaScript tag, that means the type of the text. So text JavaScript, text CSS, and link. Oh, you know what? I think actually it's actually puts this into the HTML document. So I guess that's why it's called text, because it is text that you're inserting into the you're inserting into this document. Interesting. What's the style sheet? The rel attribute defines the relationship between a linked resource and the current document, valid on link, A, area, and form. The supported values depend. Oops. Supported values depend on the element on which the attribute is found. The rel attribute defines the relationship between a linked resource and the current document, valid on link, A, area, and form. The supported values depend on the element on which the attribute is found. Interesting. The type of relationships is given by the value of the rel attribute, which, if present, must have a value. Unordered set of unique space separated keywords differently from a class name, which does not express semantics. The rel attribute must express tokens that are semantically valid for both machines and humans. The current registries for the possible values of the rel attribute are the IA-NA link relation registry, the HTML living standard, and the freely editable existing rel values page in the microformats wiki as suggested by the living standard. The living standard. I like it. I think it's right. I mean, standards are always changing, but actually calling it a living standard is pretty interesting. It's kind of unusual. If a rel attribute not present in one of the three sources above is used, some HTML validator such as the W3C markup validation service will generate a warning. Interesting. So there are different, I guess, there's specifications for what rel means in different tags. Imports a style sheet. Link, AA, area, form. It's not allowed really in any of them. Style sheet, the external resource. But in a link, it's, yeah, okay. It's just external resource. Okay, that's interesting. Style sheet, tag, search. Okay, there's different HTML tags that do different things. Got it. Got it. Huh. Excuse me. Anyway, so what we need is our link with the relationship is a style sheet. And then we're going to say href is the location, which is CSS button grid.css. And there's one more, which is the type text CSS text CSS. Okay, fair enough. So now what we want to do, and I kind of wish this was a little bit more. Yeah, let's just give it one. So we need buttons, right? Let's add some buttons. So I want a div. Did that wrong. And what's been going on? For some reason my tags aren't, oh, that's why. I thought I had the same issue with the link, but the link tag is just one. Like the meta tag doesn't have a closing part. So let's try this. Let's do 2 divs. Actually, no, we'll do it like this. Let's do 3 divs. And let's see what happens when we do that. And we're gonna have buttons. Button ID, button 1. Now, I was wondering if we should programmatically generate these buttons, but I don't think so. I think you can do that in, well, we might be able to do that, but let's not go for that quite yet. Let's just stick with super simple, sort of hard-coded approach. I could think about doing a more, taking a programmatic approach later. I think you can. You may need to, I don't actually know. No, you can. You may need to cause a re-render, but you can, yeah, because if you change the inner HTML, it'll re-render, and then there you go. Then you have, yeah, right. That's actually what JavaScript does. It programmatically changes the HTML, right? That's the whole point of JavaScript. Got it. So, all right, let's go ahead and take this as it is. See what render this as it is. So really, I probably could have not hard-coded these, but let's keep it simple, at least for the time being. Well, actually, if you programmatically generate these buttons, then I think manipulating them might be a little bit easier, believe it or not. But anyway, so get some CSS. This will be, let's make them all part of a class. For the CSS. The width. Target body's width. Actually, we don't need to make them classes, but I will do that. I was thinking actually if they're button tags, I think I can actually just apply the style directly to all of them, but we're gonna make them classes. Part of a class. So each button satisfies the following. The width is 30%. I'm so confused. The width of buttons is 75% relative to the document width. Oh, the container must be buttons. I see. So we do want a div that contains everything. Yeah, alright, sure. I'll give that ID to buttons. And they want, sure. Excuse me. Okay. So let's add all of these add these to a class. Call it the button class. Okay. Okay. I think that works. Okay, this could be wrong too. It might not be a. Oh yeah. Okay, it does exist. All right. So let's add a sort. We're gonna have a button class, and we're gonna add each of these. Whoops. Width is 30%. There's a way to do that properly, I think, but we're going to come back to that. Height. Font size. 24 pixels. Excuse me, width relative to its container width. We're going to have to look that one up. Excuse me. Whoa. There are a lot of CSS properties. We're looking for width. That's a lot. That was a lot. Oh, it is a percentage. Okay, so, is that right? Yeah, percentage. Oh, okay, so it works. This probably has issues. Okay. Interesting. I don't think that's what they were going for. And then the width of this is 75%. Okay. Buttons 75%. Alright, let's try that. Okay, interesting. I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. That's the CSS part. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh, excuse me. Alright, let's change the behavior for so button 5 on click for button 5. I'm gonna say middle button. It's gonna be document dot element by ID or get element or no. Something like this, or is it query element? I don't remember. This is like just yesterday we were doing this too. That's kind of interesting. Looking for document. There we go. Get element by ID. Oh, okay. Oh. Of course. Of course. Make it const. And let's say how does that work? Element object on click. Mouse events, click. Excuse me. Add list event listener by assigning event listener to the on event name property. Oh, I see. So we can just click and add an event listener on event name property. Okay, so on click. So we can set on click to event. Do things. Something like this. And we can say what's this thing on? Insufficient storage, it says. Isn't there a way to clear the log? Yeah. Oh, this doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Nope. Not working. Not working. On click. Oh, look at that, you can do it that way too. Function, change content. I guess you're not supposed to have a. No, you do have an event object. So confused. Why doesn't this work? Maybe it's just E instead of event. Maybe event is not right. I don't. I don't get it. about middle button, inner HTML? Is it inner text or inner HTML? Yeah, inner HTML. Is this thing on? Hmm. It's definitely middle button, element ID. So I don't think this script is being loaded. Very well could be the issue. Buttons grid.js. No. That is being loaded. And the body. The CSS is working, the JavaScript is working. How come like can we just console log hello world? How about this? Can we debug it? Contents loaded, incorrect. I don't want to reload the whole page, but maybe that's what we should do. Hold on a second here. I don't know what is going on, but this doesn't seem to be working correctly. Okay. Something strange is going on here. I'm gonna reload the whole thing. Reload the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay. I don't see anything in the console. Is this just not correct? This part? I don't think you need this. I'm very confused. What if we just went ahead and commented everything out? Subscribe, insufficient storage. I don't see I don't see anything being written to the console, which makes it really difficult for me to debug, because that's typically what you would do. You would write to the console. What do you do in this situation? What do you do? Take a nap, go to sleep. That's what you do. You say, I shall not suffer this any longer. Any longer. Right. The question is, how do you hi, hey, how's it going? How's it going, Melito? Welcome back. Hello, welcome. Howdy. I saw one of your videos recently on excuse me. You made a video balancing a water bottle, and you had special effects. Thought it was a fun video. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of like metal. I used to be a fan of not really metal, but like rock, I guess. I guess you could say I was a fan of some metal, but yeah, that I don't know if I can say that that's like. Let's just say I'm not a fan. Let's just say that. I don't know. I want to say tie it into it has to do with Christianity, but like I don't want to go too far too quick. I guess offer that opinion without. I guess what I want to say is like I kind of would like. I think it would be better, healthier if that was something you thought about for yourself and then you came to that conclusion on your own. I don't want to like force that on you. If that makes sense. I don't know how to express it. Like you get the idea. Yeah, I'm not trying to. I don't want to overdo it either. Like let's just say personally, that's what I think. I think it's let's just say my walk with Christ probably makes it a little bit more difficult for me to listen to metal. Maybe that's the way to express it. I don't know how to say it in a way that's like gracious and gentle, and these are the fruits of the Spirit, right? If we can go over that quickly. I almost don't want to say it because I don't know how to say it in the right way. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. So these are the things. Like when I'm talking to another, really anybody that I'm dealing with, I need to be showing those things. I need to be loving, joyful, peaceful, long-suffering, gentle, good, faithful, meek, and have temperance. So I'm trying to not be, trying to be those things. Softer music I use is for my thanking God videos. Yeah, sure. Maybe I don't know if I should go there. I was gonna say there's actually music that is designed. People think it's Christian music, but it's actually designed to. So there are some churches out there that are like, it's like a whole different subject, but I'll get to that in a moment. Metal is just an energizer to me. Okay. I don't know if I should say okay. I'll just say I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. That much I could say. I don't know if I can say okay, but I can say I see what you're saying. I will leave that with you. I'll let you develop your own views on metal outside of what I say, because it just wouldn't be right for me to try to like impose what I think. But what I do want to say is there are churches out there that exist that they don't really follow Christ, and what they do is there's a lot of different churches that say they follow Christ but don't follow Christ, and I can kind of explain like what I mean, but there's a lot of different ways that can happen. But one in particular, they make music, and the music, they say they're Christians. However, the music itself doesn't really honor Christ. Like, in other words, the music, it's not obvious that they're referring to, not even obvious they're referring to Christ, and also it's not. There's nothing about sin. There's nothing about hell. There's nothing about really like what the Bible, the core values of the Bible, the core sort of doctrine. It's basically, in terms of doctrine, the music is totally unrelated to biblical doctrine, which basically makes it just music, like not really Christian music, but just music. And so the wicked part is that it's saying it's Christian music when it's not really Christian music is a lie. So I have to mention that to you too as well. So even softer music, there is such a thing as like wicked softer music that's pretending to be Christian but is not Christian, and because it's pretending to be Christian, it makes it wicked. I mean, even things that don't pretend to be Christian, or not everything that is not there is some music that's not Christian music that is okay to listen to. It's relatively speaking neutral. It's not worship music, but it's just music. However, most music that's not Christian, that's not worship music, is pretty wicked. And you can kind of see that. There's like there are guys that talk about like the music industry, and they explain sort of like the issues. And the music industry is pretty wicked overall. Actually, there's like a lot of really questionable things going on in the music industry. My church goes with what genre is popular: rap, choir music, even African music. No metal song has ever been produced from my ministry. Oh, interesting. I have to admit, I'm not really a fan of popular, because that's the thing. Is like with Christians, with the church, there's such a thing as the world, right? So like let me explain. Let me explain what I mean. The God of the air, and in Scripture, Ephesians. Let's see. Okay, so let's read this in context. 2:2, yeah, chapter 2. And you hath he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins, wherein, and also let me know if you can still hear me. My air conditioning unit just turned on, and it's kind of loud. Wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation in times past, in the lusts of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. But God, who is rich in mercy, but God, like these words, these two words in chapter 2, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 4, but God. Such a powerful. There's actually a song I like where the guy, part of the verses are just, but God, rich in mercy. It's good. I'll show you who that is, by the way. Just give him credit where credit's due. It's good. I don't know how I feel about this particular band, but this song is a lot of fun. Big Daddy Weave, this guy, yeah. Alive, this is the one. I'd recommend this. It's a pretty interesting video. I think I have my audio off. Yeah, I don't want to get copyright striked again, so I'm not going to play it, but I'll just show you parts of it. It's a good song. I think. I don't know. I don't actually know. I don't know where they are theologically, but it's definitely a song I enjoy listening to. I have to kind of like go back and learn like what their positions are and things. But anyway. Amen. Yeah, but God. Yeah, so but God, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace ye are saved. And it keeps going, right? But I wanted to focus on this part here. Not that we couldn't just keep reading, but this is really what I wanted to talk about. Was the prince of the power of the air is referring to the world, right? Like this is kind of a passage where they're describing the world, or where I don't know who wrote Ephesians. I guess it would be Paul Paul writing the epistle to the Ephesians, the church in Ephesus. So he the prince of the power of the air is Satan, more or less. It's evil, right? Demonic forces that own the world, that own the air, that own the world. This is the God that everyone who's not a Christian worships, right? They worship the flesh, they worship themselves, they worship their lusts, they worship random quote unquote gods, whatever gods they really want. For the most part, things that are made up. They kind of do whatever they want, and that's actually demons. Their favorite thing to do is create false religions, but as far as I know, but that's Satan. He's the prince of the power of the air. He's the world, right? So when you talk about like the secular world, all of their energy is focused towards him. Right? It's all worshiping Satan. Christians, on the other hand, we all worship the one true God, Jesus Christ, and the Trinity, right? The God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Like we worship, and for the most part, Christians are like your life doesn't get easier because you've become a Christian. It actually becomes harder. Whereas the people, one of the reasons they worship Satan is that they think it'll be easier, right? They'll think it'll be more fun, more enjoyable, more this, more that. And for some of them it is. I mean, for some of them they genuinely do have easier lives. So like a good example, there are a lot of preachers that aren't actually Christian preachers. They're just people who are more like what do they call that? Inspirational like speakers, I guess. I forget what the word for that is. They basically just encourage people, and that's it. They're not Christians. They're not preachers. A lot of them pretend to be preachers, but they just basically give words of encouragement, and call themselves a church. And there are quite a few, and they're millionaires. These people, like some of them are billionaires. And they usually promote what they call the prosperity gospel, which is like you pay the church more money, and the promise is that God is going to give you back more money for giving God money, which is ridiculous. It's not at all biblical. It's not how that works. You don't pay God for favors and get a return on investment. God doesn't need your money. He's God, and God doesn't make deals like that. God will help you. I mean, you could pray to God and He'll help you, but it's not like that. You can't bribe God or something. It doesn't make any sense. So, but these preachers they promote that, and the reason they promote that is that people will give more money to them. So they tell people to give them money and say it's for God, and they also say, and God will bless you with more money if you give the money to me. That's the prosperity gospel. It's really evil. And people do it, and it's wicked. But that's my point. Like people like that, they can go their whole lives and just make money off of basically the unsaved, people who are not Christians, and just kind of cheat people forever and become billionaires and live very easy lives. And all they do is basically get up on a podium and lie to people, and then it's like the easiest way to be a billionaire. So mind you, becoming a Christian, your life is not necessarily going to get easier or better. Truly, the point is because you believe in God. Why do I want to say all that? So my point, though, is that the world is everything else, right? The world is most things are for the world. Most things are secular. That's why we talk about like there's the world, the secular world, the Christian world. These things are all different, and these things are rather the Christian world is different from the secular world. And so secular music, for the most part, 99.99999% of it is worshiping Satan. It's actually denying God your worship. It's actually going towards something that's not Christ, and so something like that. I mean, it's not so much that it's denying God. It's just a lot of it is, but some of it is just plain old, just music. Like it's not necessarily. It's more or less neutral. But my point, why I brought all that up, is when you were talking about rap and this and popular music for the most part is like demonically inspired. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And you definitely want to be aware of that. Definitely want to be aware of that. Like most things, especially popular music, anything popular for the most part is going to be according to the prince of the power of the air. It's going to be in line with that. It's not going to be in line with Christ. And you'll see that over time, like as you grow in your faith, as you read the Bible more, as you learn more about Christ, you'll realize that and you'll see it. You'll see why. You'll start to understand it. Like it takes a little bit of time to develop what I would call discernment, like being able to know what's right and what's wrong in terms of like what's biblical and what's not biblical, and what you should or shouldn't do based on those things. But I would say, yeah. So I want to make that comment too, because if you're in a church where they're worshiping using popular music, you might want to think about finding another church. Let me get back to what you said too, so that way I'm not rambling off too much here. Oh, okay, here you go. Yeah, okay, all right. Just in case you had said something, I wanted to follow up on it. Yeah, I would actually say you might want to find another church, and the reason is, and it might be that serious, because if you're part of a church and they're misleading you or they're not leading you in the right direction, that's really bad. That actually means you're getting pushed further from God, not further towards God at that church, which is really counterproductive and actually could put your soul in jeopardy, because you might not be saved. You might be literally might not be saved if you're not able to basically part from a church that's not worshiping God but doing the opposite. It's actually disgracing God. Like I said, that's a lot of the churches. That's what demons their favorite thing to do is set up churches like that are not really Christian churches. They just pretend to be, and that actually deeply dishonors God, and it leads people away from Christ. That's something to note about being saved, is you technically can't lose your salvation, but what happens is people think they're saved and they're not, and they never were, and they never will be. And that's most people who call themselves Christians actually fall into that category, believe it or not. That's also biblical. I don't know if the number of people is biblical, if that's biblical. I do know that there are a lot. Scripture says there are a lot of like people who will pervert the faith, let's just say. And then I would say in today's society, it's by and large, most people that call themselves Christians are really not actually Christians. They just think they're Christians. So yeah, kind of give you that warning. But just because you mentioned your church does this kind of a thing, I think you might want to think about finding another church. Just think about it. I'm saying you have to do it, but something to think about, because it's very likely if they're playing popular music in the church, that might not be a church. Quite frankly, that might not be a church. And this is sort of the biblical reason for that, is that that most of the things that are popular are of the world, and they're from people who are walking in according to the prince of the power of the air, not walking according to Christ. And so those people are still dead in sin. They still worship Satan. They produce things that are not righteous, and that's most of popular culture is not righteous. So yeah, that's my very long-winded way of warning you. You want to be careful. You want to find, if you're looking for churches, by the way, what I would recommend, there's this guy, Independent Baptist. There are these churches you can find. So I'm not just leaving off on like where do I find a church? IndependentBaptist.church. You can find independent fundamentalist Baptist churches near you. It's a search engine, you can find a church that lines up more so with what you understand to be biblical, and they'll feed you biblical doctrine instead of pretending, which like I said, most churches are basically pretending. So yeah, you can use this if you're looking for another church. Just if you think about it and you come to that conclusion that you do need to find another church, let me give you the means to do that as well. Again, I don't know, all these things are for you to kind of think about and decide. Obviously, I just want to warn you that, because more likely than not, the church you're going to isn't going to warn you that other churches are potentially misleading you, especially if it's a church that is misleading you. So yeah, I want to bring that up to you, just given the context. Just referring to the genres anyway. They make their own music, not that they play music from secular artists. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's fine. Even that, you kind of got to be careful. Gotcha. But yeah, it's definitely something you want to be really discerning with the churches, especially churches today. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about your church. It's something, again, it's for you to think about and decide for yourself those things. Actually, speaking of which, I might be looking for a church myself. I've been attending a church that I'm grateful to meet the people there, and I'm grateful to be at the church, but I noticed something that's kind of hard, and I'm going to talk to some of the people there about it. But if they confirm what I think they're going to confirm, then it's very likely I'll find another church, because it just, not that you can't be forgiven for what happened, but it's just very hard for me to feel right if what happened actually did happen. And yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Let's just say there's some questionable behavior, and I don't know if it even happened, and I don't know why they did it, and if there's an excuse or an apology or any of those things. There's kind of like a lot of things to consider, but I might be finding another church soon as well, just because I don't know. It's fine. I mean, like, it's not like it's unforgivable, but it's also like kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth, and it's like, well, maybe we'll come back later. Maybe we'll come back to visit another time. Let's not make it the main church if someone's kind of not doing what they're supposed to do. But anyway, all right. So to kind of return to the problem we were working on, and I think, Melito, I'm not sure. I don't think you're necessarily a software developer, so forgive me. I realize this is we're kind of branching off to two totally different subjects. Software development has nothing to do with Christianity. So yeah, this happens to be the profession I chose. So that's another thing too in Scripture. Man doesn't eat, man doesn't work. Thessalonians 3:10. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. So, if you don't work, you're not supposed to eat, which is correct. Yeah. There's other passages about work too, but that's extremely important. So anybody who can work should be working in terms of Scripture. And I'm not saying work to death, but like you just need to work. And then the other one is there's another one here about like being very good at your job, being very hardworking. I actually don't know where in Scripture that is. But you're called to be hardworking too. Bible verse about hard work. And whatsoever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not unto men. Colossians. Yeah, there you go. The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. Proverbs. For even when you... Right, this is the one we just read. I can do all things through Christ. Okay, that's... Yeah, sure. I'm not sure. I shouldn't say sure, but... That's actually, I don't want to be disrespectful. Or irreverent, but this wasn't exactly what I was looking for. But this is actually just encouragement when it's difficult when you're working. All labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. That's a word for me. That's a new one for me. Extreme want or poverty, destitution. Oof. but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. Oof. So less talk, more work. To all things without murmuring and disputings, committeth thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Whatever therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. And that ye study to be quiet, and to do your own business, and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you. I think probably that needs a little more context. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. For with God nothing shall be impossible. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him, knowing that that of the Lord shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ. I think this needs more context too. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might, for there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, whither thou goest. And there's more. But there's quite a few verses in the Bible about working hard. So that's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now. Preaching is work. Making videos for God is work. Yes and no. So the thing about preaching, it's a little different. So, like, personally, I'm kind of conflicted about it too when it comes to ministry. Basically, if you're a minister, you're effectively a beggar. So it's not the same kind of work as other work. Like this is talking about other work. This is not talking about ministry. It's like specifically, I should say, like this is not referring to ministry. Those verses. Classifying ministry work as work, like yes, ministry work is work, but it falls under kind of a different category. So the Bible, you are called to give, and also to give to the church specifically as a Christian. However, you don't need to do that in the sense of like you're called in so much as like what you're able to give. So in other words, if you're a poor person, or like you're someone like me, like right now I'm unemployed, it's sort of unreasonable for me to be giving money because I don't have an income. So like I could starve to death. Like that's the most extreme. So my point though is that it's up to the people who are giving the money how much you're going to make as a minister. Right? In other words, you could make nothing as a minister. Like you literally could be flat broke as a minister, and that might be God's will for you. It's not the same as like working outside of the ministry, where it's pretty much you're supposed to get paid for those things. It's not supposed to be for free. Whereas the ministry work literally is like worst case scenario, it's free. Like it's free labor. So that's something I think you personally should think about or consider if you're very serious about being a minister and you want to make your money working as a minister, because that's basically what you're saying, right? If you're going to call it work, you're saying it's something that I should get paid for. Like that's the whole point of working is to provide, and that means getting paid and then using that money to pay for things that you need and your family needs, and presumably you're not stealing the money, you're working, you're doing something of value, of service to someone else. No, I'm into sports. You're gonna make money in sports? Is that what you're saying? But yeah, that's what I wanted to be clear about. So let's not pretend that you're working you're not gonna work because you're preaching and you're calling that work, right? Because you should not expect to get paid for that. You should not consider that to be like providing for your family, unless you're very serious about it and like you intend to basically potentially put your family through like poverty, totally relying on the church, which, like I said, it's no small thing to be a minister, because ministers are pretty much in that position where they're totally beholden to their congregants to support them. Like you have to be really serious about being a minister, really humble, really serious. Some ministers do very, very well for themselves, and I mean honest ministers, but it's rough. Like it's not. I wouldn't even put those two those things in the same category. Working as a minister and working a regular job are two entirely different universes in terms of expectations. No, I'm into sports, but my engineering degree I'm working for is a fallback. Okay, so you want to make money as an athlete. Okay, fair enough. So here's the deal with making money as an athlete. I'll just kind of tell you outright. It's very difficult. When I was younger, I wanted to be a professional football player. Like I'm just so you're aware, like I'm 6'2". Right now I'm like 260 pounds. I used to lift a lot. It's like I said, it's extremely difficult. Like it's hard to even be in a financial position such that you can spend the amount of time you need to focus on your sports, focus on exercising, focus on practicing, focus on all those things. My family, we lost our home. Both my mom and my dad, they both lost their home, so I didn't really have the option to focus on sports, because if I didn't succeed, that was it. Like I'd be homeless. I'm still like struggling, by the way. Like I'm unemployed now. I mean, I think I'll be okay, but like I basically view myself financially as like just barely making it. Like I'm still really like totally dependent on the mercy of strangers, in that like if they don't hire me, like I'll starve to death. Like I literally won't be able to survive. So even sacrificing that possibility of playing football professionally, even though I have the physique of a professional athlete, I still am struggling. So like you kind of need to have a lot of opportunity. You kind of need a family that can take care of you if you fail. You kind of need, or you need to be like really, really, really confident that you're going to make it. They're kind of like another point is sort of like that was quote unquote also my fallback, and like I had to fall back. I really couldn't do both. There was no way I was going to be able to do, and I tried. I mean, I was on. I didn't play football at university, but I played. I didn't play. I joined the rowing team because I knew I needed exercise. If I ever wanted to play football, I needed to at least stay in shape. And then basically what happened is that my schoolwork was extremely difficult. And then, like I said, we lost our homes. It's a little more complicated than that, but basically I ended up paying rent. So I was working full time while also going to school full time, and I could barely pay the bills. I could barely, barely making it, barely get my homework done, barely just get anything done. And there wasn't an opportunity. There really wasn't an opportunity to pursue any kind of sports. So that kind of just fell by the wayside. So yeah, my point is it's really hard. It's really hard, and I would recommend. Honestly, I would say don't even bother going to school. Quite frankly, like if I can go back to 10 years ago and tell myself what to do, I would have told myself, go get a CDL, go get a trucking license, and become a truck driver and drive a truck. Go do that. Just don't even bother going to school. Don't even bother with trying. I mean, you could play sports if you want, but given how things actually turned out for me, that would have been. I'd be a millionaire now. I'd literally be a millionaire. I would be, and not only that, but I'd be making like probably $100,000 a month right now. I'd be like a multimillionaire, because trucking right now it's in such high demand that some of these guys, the owner operators, they're pulling in. There's a guy on YouTube who's saying he made $50,000 in 1 month before taxes, mind you. So yeah, I'd be like a multimillionaire if I had done that. Instead, now I'm like again struggling. So yeah, that's just my quick take on like how difficult it can be. Engineering and university degrees and all that, really, it's a lot harder than you think, because the degree is almost useless. Like again, I'm interviewing. I've been programming for like 15 years now, and I struggle with getting jobs. It's not a guarantee. It's not free. It's not like you have to really work. Like that's kind of what I'm doing now. You got to really work very hard, and you're not getting paid for any of that work that you're putting in to get better. So yeah, they're like no guarantees, and you're paying all this money, and you're putting all this time, and you're, like I said, sacrificing potential dreams. Like for me, I had to basically forget about playing any sports professionally. It's not like it's not like I couldn't still do something like that in my life. I think in my early 30s, I probably could get in pretty good shape and even try, but it's pretty far off. Like it's pretty far away now, and yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough. I really didn't have a lot of guidance. Really didn't. My dad wasn't a Christian. He couldn't tell me what to. He didn't really give me really didn't guide me very much. My dad had a lot of his own problems. I love my dad a lot. I don't mean to dishonor him here, but as far as like what he could have, the things that if I could go back and tell myself my options are when I was 18, I would given myself so much more guidance than the guidance that I actually got from my dad. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Nothing against my dad. I mean, he just wasn't a programmer. He wasn't, he had a lot of his own things he was worrying about. He kind of really wasn't thinking about. He actually, in his mind, he probably thought what I thought, which was like, I'll just get a degree and then get a job and I'll be fine. But that's not the truth. That's not reality. You may be struggling for quite a long time. It might take you 6 years instead of 4 to get through school, and you might not be able to find a job for a year. So you end up 7 years down the line with $40,000 of debt, wondering, when am I going to be able to get a job? Meanwhile, if you get a CDL, it'll take you, a few months maybe, but you'll have a job probably within a week or two, and then you'll be making. Some guys are making $95,000 a year, just first year, no experience. So, trucking, because many are inside. Oh yeah. Let me talk about trucking. Yeah, trucking's great. Many are inside. My dad isn't Christian either. Trucking is like driving a semi truck. So like, here, this is what I mean by trucking. I get not typing correctly here. Let's see. Yeah, this kind of trucking. When you get a semi truck, it's called a tractor trailer. So this is a tractor, and this part is the trailer, right? And so you drive it. And what you do is you get a CDL, and then once you get a CDL, it's a license. It's a driving license. It's relatively easy to get. It's not that hard. There are a few different ways to get it, but basically what you do is it's like a process. You can look it up online how to do it. But you get first you get your regular license, regular driving license. Then you got to get you take a test, like a written test. You can study online. There's resources. Then you get what's called a CPL. It's a learning permit, or CLP, I think, learning permit. So it's the C. I don't know what the C stands for. Or commercial. That's what it is. Commercial learning permit. CDL is commercial driving license. So you get a CLP, commercial learning permit. Then you get you study, get a CLP. You take a test. You set up with the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. Take a test. Get your CLP. Then what you need to do is you need to find someone who has a CDL and ask them to train you. One way of doing this is to actually just like find somebody who's like willing to spend time with you. That's one thing. The other thing is you can find someone who has a company that's looking for drivers. Like I said, the shortage is very extreme right now, so you could probably find a company that will help you get the CDL. And you tell them, hey, I don't have experience. Like, can you help me either learn how to drive a truck? Can you just hire me on the spot? Some place will actually just hire you with the CLP, which is it's illegal. Don't do that, in my opinion. But or like talk to them about like helping you get the CDL. And they might say like, yeah, we'll help you with your CDL, but we want you to work for us afterwards, or something like that. And work out something with them. And what you want to do is the reason why you need someone else who has a CDL is the law is that you can't practice driving in a truck unless someone is in the truck with you who has a CDL while you have your CLP. So while you have your learning permit, you can't drive the truck without someone with a CDL in the truck with you. So you literally just need someone with a CDL to be in the truck with you, and then you can learn how to drive it. And then there's another test for the CDL, which is a driving test with a truck. Obviously, you need a truck to do the test, and also a truck to learn how to drive. But again, if you find a company and they have trucks and spare trucks that you can practice with, you could probably work something out with them where you can practice on the weekends or something. And once you get your CDL, then you can work for one of these companies, and then you can start getting experience. And like I said, a lot of companies will start paying you like $70,000 a year pretty much as soon as you get the CDL, which only takes a few months at most. You probably could do it in a few weeks. I don't actually know how long it takes, but I'm sure it doesn't take more than a few months. And then once you have the job, and then once you have the job, you can go from there. You can actually like get your own truck and start making a lot of money with your own truck. Get your own authority, it's called, where you basically are your own business, and you have your own truck, you have your own business. And like I said, the guy that was making 50,000 a month, that's what he's doing. He actually doesn't even have his own authority. So the person that he's working for, the carrier, the one that has the authority, that's basically a legal document that says that you're allowed legal right to move freight. You need to have an authority to be to legally be able to do it yourself, to have your own business. So even if you have your own truck, you still need your own authority. This guy, the authority, the carrier that he's working for, they took like half of his money. Presumably they did it for everything that he worked for. So even though he made 50,000, that was half of what he was supposed to make. So he would have made 100,000 in a month, which is really a lot of money. Like that's a lot. Like most software developers, after years and years and years and years and years going to school, working for years in industry, so on and so forth, probably will make 100,000 in a year, not a month. So we're talking you could be making like 10 times what an engineer would make in a year, whereas the engineer, so it's like really like 100 times, right? It's like a year instead of 10 years, and 10 times the money instead of 100,000 a year, it'd be 100,000 a month. That's like 100. It's 100 times. It's 100 times better to get a CDL and become a trucker. That's what we're talking about right now. That's where we're at right now in the world. So that's why I would highly recommend. Probably you want to take a path like that. There are other jobs that are similar, but trucking right now is like really extreme, just because there's such a shortage of truckers, and people are making huge sums of money. So yeah, just want to give you that real quick. Like, university, probably not worth it comparatively. Like, if you could just get a trucking license, get a job really quickly, and make more money than you would probably make as an engineer a lot sooner. We're talking like potentially 6 years sooner. You probably should just do that. Probably should just because you could be a trucker and then like also take classes, night classes or something, or take classes on the side. In the days that you're not driving, or try to work your driving schedule around your classes. Like, you could still take classes if you wanted to and still get your degree, but also be making a lot of money. So yeah, that's my spiel on trucking, and I realized I didn't read the chat at all, but I just wanted to kind of give you that. That's actually probably something I might pursue myself once I get message retracted. I hope I didn't do that. I just kind of click around sometimes. When I what was I saying? When I get a job, I think the plan is actually, I very likely. Oh, you know what? This is my email. I should probably close this. Yeah. I don't want to dox and give away any of my emails. I don't want to respect the privacy of the other people who are emailing me. When I get a job, one of the things I'd like to do on the weekends is actually pursue that, like learning how to drive a truck, and then try to get my own truck. Like, if I make that kind of money as a software developer, which I was making pretty good money before, and I've reduced my expenses a lot, so I should be able to save quite a bit. If I can make that kind of money consistently, then the plan is probably the next thing I want to do is get a CDL, learn how to drive a truck, get a truck, get my own truck, get my own authority, and kind of truck on the weekends in addition to my job. Try to work remotely too, so that way when I'm moving around the country, I can still be doing my job. But like, if I get stuck somewhere and I can't get home for a while, then I could still work my remote job, and that way I can have my remote job and also, kind of get myself, slowly work myself into learning how to truck. And then, yeah, man, I mean, if I make that kind of money, I probably will. Yeah, I mean, I could just do that for a long time, actually. I mean, I could just, and you could do whatever. Like, you don't have to work on the weekends, because if you have your own authority and you make your own hours, and you just pick up a load one day, take it somewhere else, and then head back home like you don't need to do that. You know, you could just like have your job and hang out with the truck and just slowly pay it off, or work with the truck and make a lot of money. So yeah, like the idea basically is I just kind of want to see how much money I can make and while also working as a software developer. And if I do really well, who knows? There's like a lot of options there. But yeah, the trucks are kind of expensive. So if you can get that kind of money and you can pay off the truck, get like a really nice new truck. You can get into a truck for basically well, not for free, but for zero down, so no money that you pay up front. You just get a loan, and I have extremely good credit right now, so I can get probably really good loans and really good rates and all that, really low interest rates. So I could pay. I mean, I could actually pay for a truck while working as a software developer, which a truck would be like $2,000 a month probably for a big loan. Anyway, my point is, yeah, I could just like buy a truck, get an authority, get my CDL, and just haul freight on the weekends for really a lot of money, like probably $5,000 to $10,000 a weekend, which is nice. That would be nice. I would appreciate that. Pay off the truck, maybe get a house, and then I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do after that, but yeah. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still working on getting that software development job, so that's where I'm at right now. But those are things that like I think those might be some of the things I'll pursue once I get going on as far as working. Once I have like my off hours after work, I could think about what I might want to do next. But yeah, so I would recommend that to you if you're thinking about like working and you're kind of young and you're still thinking about what to do. Like it's not like you can't go back to school. Like you can get a CDL, work for someone else for a while, see how it is, and then if you think you want to go back to school afterwards, then just go back to school. It's really no harm, no foul. I mean, really the only thing that could be is that you make a lot of money and realize, hey, I want to do this. I don't really need to go back to school. I'm just not going to do that. Yeah, like that's what I'm telling you is pretty much the truth. Like you're going to spend at least 4 years at school and then struggle to get a job after that, which could take, I mean, some guys get a job immediately, but most people struggle. Like for me, it was it took me 6 years to get the degree, another year to find a job, so 7 years total. And then when I finally got the job, it was not a very high paying job comparatively. I mean, it was high paying compared to the rest of like the country, but for where I was living and how much time I'd put in, 7 years, it was not a very high paying job. And I had that for like 4 years. So like 11 years down the road, I'm basically looking back and saying like, yeah, I wasted 11 years. I could have done things a lot better if someone had just told me like, hey, there's a better way. Like there's other school, and you said you're in community college. Yeah, I would do that too. Like I could have saved a bunch of money by going to community college as well. And yeah, so there's a better way. Like you can go to community college, then you can go for a trade, go to the trade school and get into a job a lot sooner that pays a lot more. Or you can, like I said, just get trucking is kind of a trade. It's not really, I wouldn't say you there are schools for trucking, but I wouldn't recommend it personally. I think you probably can do it without that. The reason being, the main thing they do at the trucking school is they don't really get you into a truck. They don't really get you a lot of truck time, and really that's what you need. You really need to be able to drive a truck around for the test, and that's like the main thing in trucking is that they want someone with experience. But again, like people will hire you with no experience. Like you don't need to worry that much about it, especially if you're young. You have the time to put in. Me, I'm already almost 30. It's like, dude, if I could go back 12 years ago and just go learn how to drive a truck, boy, my life would have been different. I probably would have a family right now. I'd probably have a home and a family, and I'd probably be on my way. But what are you gonna do? It just didn't work out. There's a lot of responsibility to point out. Like it's my responsibility, my parents' responsibility, all those things. But I can't go back and change time. So for now, I'm just like, just do better. Just do better in the future. Community college, thankfully. That's good. Yeah, I would recommend that. That's one of the things I would have done differently is go to community college first, and then after that go into the 4-year school and basically get all the general education requirements out of the way. And then when I go into the 4-year school, the last 2 years it would be like really focused on the important stuff. But actually, like I said, now I wouldn't even have gone to school. Like, forget it. There's like no reason to. I do know that it really does help to do things for others. I can't wait to one day have my own space in my own house, which I can work on making gifts for others. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that's great. It would be nice to make heartfelt gifts to anyone, from your neighbor to your friends, or to even your local restaurant cashiers. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I want to make a lot is probably because I haven't had a lot in my life. Like, for me, it's kind of like, like I said, I put 11 years in, 12 years, whatever it is. I've been programming forever, and I'm just like really disappointed. Like, I kind of feel like I was sold a lie, where it's like, my life was not supposed to be this hard. It's not really why I went to school. Didn't go to school so I could suffer through that and then suffer more afterwards. It was like I was supposed to be doing the right thing, whatever that is, and it was supposed to be an investment. I mean, the upshot is that, like, yeah, I mean, I can always get a pretty good job, which is good. That is something of an investment. But like, if you have a good job already, why do you need the security of being able to get a good job? In other words, like, if I'm already doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm already getting paid for that. Like, why would I need this security? Like, it's kind of redundant, and basically just suboptimal, right? Like, it's just actually just not true that it's better to do it this way. It's actually better to get a job. And anyway, yeah. So the reason is I'm trying to like make up for lost time, kind of a thing. So it is somewhat selfish, but yeah, being able to take care of people. Really, the main thing is Scripture says if you want to have a family, you need to take care of your family. That's like the main thing I'm concerned about. Like, I'm not even there. Like, I'm not even at a point where I can, like I said, have a home, have a wife, be able to take care of her, be able to take care of the bills, be able to take care of everything, and not just take care of things, but also be there for my family, because working takes a lot of time. Like, if you notice, I mean, I'm not working right now, but when I was working, when I would come home, I would study more, so that way I would be prepared for interviews in the future. And like, that's what that's what I did. I would spend like it was 9 hours actually. I did 9 hour shifts, and it would be 9 hours, and then I would spend the next 3 to 4 hours at home working more, so that way I could be able to like ensure that I could get a job, because I didn't feel like I could get a job after school. And I felt like I really got lucky at the job that I had, which is probably true, by the way. Like, I probably did need a lot more work, a lot more help. So yeah, that's what the red pillars say. Focus on your grind. Yeah, I don't think that's really even the thing, though. Like, that's my point is that like you can be grinding away for nothing. Like, you can, like I said, we're talking about an order 100 times better if someone just told me, like, hey, you can do this and it'd be a lot easier for you. Yeah, that would have been worth 100. It would have been 100 times easier. So like, you can kind of waste your time grinding at nothing. And that actually comes from, that's not really like the real benefits of that is like, it's not a red pill thing. It's actually Christians. Like, Christians are the ones who would take care of you. Like, if I was part of a church when I was your age, I would have been in contact with other Christians, and they probably would have explained that to me. They would have been, hey man, like, here's what you do to get a job as a software developer. Here's like whether or not you actually need your degree. Here's other options in life that you can take and you can do. And I mean, I had friends, but they didn't really know very much, and they were also not Christians, so it wasn't like they really cared very much about what I was doing. And I mean, like, really cared, like cared as if like, like a father was treating his own son, right? Like my friends' fathers didn't see me as their son, they saw me as their son's friend, right? But with Christians, you love your neighbor as yourself. So literally, like, all your neighbor's kids are basically treat them almost as if they're your kids. Now, mind you, there's some boundaries there that you can't cross, but for the most part, that's the level of care and love that you would have for them. And I mean, even my own dad, he had no idea. I mean, I would talk to him a lot about like how difficult things were, and he was just kind of like, I can't help you because I don't know anything about this stuff. And again, I love my dad, but it was true. He had no idea. And but like, if I was part of a church where there's all these other men that could have been like, yeah, no, don't do that, like, or yeah, you can do this or whatever. That's something. So my point is, like, actually being a Christian will get you a lot farther than being a red pillar, because even if you're red pilled, you're still not going to have that like community of guidance, because it's not what the red pill community does. I mean, they'll guide you away from certain things online, but not like a Christian, who's like basically like a second father to you, would show you like, here's how I could teach you how to do. Like, you literally, you could probably find someone at the church who has a CDL license and just ask them, say, hey, could you want to donate some time to help me get my CDL? I'll try to figure out a way to pay you back. Like, I've actually been thinking about options like that, like what I could possibly do to get my own CDL, and that actually might be an option I'll pursue, because it's just a lot easier than trying to like conjure up a person to help you learn how to drive a truck. Women wait at the finish line and pick the winners. Yeah, that's somewhat true. Although even that is kind of broken too. Like, that's not actually that's not actually how God intended for things to be. The reason for that actually has a lot to do with like women being very like wicked women that are not Christians. They tend to prioritize money, right? They tend to prioritize money, status. What can he do for me? And that's why they wait at the finish line, because they're looking for guys that can give them stuff. And so the guys that can give them stuff are the guys that made a lot of money, quote unquote, the winners. Yeah. So that's actually not even really a Christian thing. That's like only strictly a red pill thing, and it's not even necessarily true. Like I said, there's a lot of differences between the red pillers and the Christians. I was red pilled, but I also became a Christian, and I realized actually there are a lot of those elements are not really true. And I've repeated that before. I've said that before too, by the way, that women wait at the finish line and pick the winners. That's generally true of women, but Christian women, yeah, they're attracted to guys that can give them things. There are things that women are attracted to, sexually attracted to, but the Christian women are not serving themselves. They're serving God, right? So they follow you while you're following Christ. They're not just following their own whims. So even if you are a winner and you pick up one of the women, like, she might destroy you because she's not a Christian. And you could say, like, yeah, I mean, probably a Christian, even though she's a Christian woman, she's still a woman, so she would be attracted to a guy who's a winner. But you don't need to be that competitive anymore. Something like that. Like, it's not necessary to be like, because you're not like, a lot of the women in the world today, their standards are totally broken because they're only serving themselves. So like, as a man, if you try to go to one of them and say, hey, what do you want? They'll say, give me like your soul, basically. Give me everything, basically be a slave and work 100 hours a week and make as much money as you can, and just so I can live in a house and then go cheat on you whenever I want. That's the level of difficulty like the secular woman is going to put you through, the level of pain and misery and difficulty. And like, you're technically a winner, but you're also like, you lost your whole life, right? I realize your life isn't your soul, but the point is that you sacrifice way more than you should for them, because they're not serving God, they're serving themselves. And so that's the level of sacrifice is pretty much infinite, unachievable, unmaintainable. So that's another part too. Is like, you might think that this guy's a winner, but he's going to get destroyed more likely than not by this woman that he picked up. You don't need to be that competitive with a woman who doesn't have her desire is just totally out of control. You don't need to be that competitive. Like, that's another thing. That's something that a lot of I don't think any of the red pillars will tell you, that you don't need to be that successful. Like, actually, it's not that necessary. Again, for me, I'm in kind of a special position where I'm like really struggling with or without a woman. I just think I should get to like just a reasonable, like, hey, you have a place to live and you have a job, and like, now you can think about dating. But so it's not even really in the realm for me, the realm of possibility for me right now. But I don't think I need to be that successful if I did a Christian woman. That's kind of my point. Is because she doesn't really care necessarily, because she's interested in God. She's not interested in how much money I make as a first priority. So that's something that like the red pill community kind of gets wrong. they're correct that that's generally true about women, but it's also somewhat incorrect in that it's not supposed to be like that. If she's following Christ, you really don't need to be that competitive. And not to say, like, again, and we're kind of doing a lot of talking now, and I kind of want to actually I want to solve these problems and go to bed. But my point was, yeah, there's a lot of it's hyper competitive. The women in the world, if you want to pursue them, they will push you to become hyper competitive. However, the reality is that that's because they are secular women and not worshiping God. If they pursued God, they wouldn't be pushing you to be hyper competitive like that, to such extremes, and so you wouldn't actually need to do that. And so really that whole idea of like only picking the guys in the finish line, that comes from that hyper competition. So it's generally true, but it's not really true it's not like realistic. It's not really reality in that in the Christian sense. It's not a Christian reality. It is a reality for the world. It is that is true for guys who are trying to get the next Kylie Jenner or whatever. She's got billions of dollars and tons of followers and all this stuff, and like the only kind of guys that she would go for are probably guys that either also make billions of dollars or are doing something that would somehow catch her attention, some very extreme thing. Who knows? And that's true of most women I've met and dealt with, is that they're just kind of like, it's kind of a mess. Like you really can't even like think straight when it comes to trying to figure out like what you're supposed to be doing to date these women. Really there is no right answer. Like it's basically just like a mess. And that's it. Like there's no winning. No matter what you do, it's not going to be right. Yeah, so the next thing is, for Christians though, again, she's following you while you're following Christ. So as long as you do have to be able to provide for your family, but as long as she's attracted to you enough to want to be with you, that's all you really need. And then obviously you have to do the things to kind of stay together and keep together and worship God together. And both of you basically recognizes a lot of sacrifice on both ends. Actually, something that's really sad, now that we're talking about it, I guess I can go into it, but I don't know if I should, because I kind of need to focus. But, well, I'll get into it in a second. Let me just read what you have to say, and then I'll talk about it. It's not competition. It's about seeing that you are the prize. That's why you focus on your grind. Not really. No, actually, that's not really true. You are supposed to look at yourself as the prize, because you are the leader ultimately of you and your wife. But women, particularly like women in general, secular women and Christian women in general are attracted to certain things sexually, right? Like there are things that are clearly, these are the things that women are attracted to. One of those things is material possession, like security, like basically knowing that she can be comfortable having children with you. That is an attractive thing. That's the main thing. Like in other words, she's very comfortable that knowing that if you have children together, you'll be able to take care of those children. Right? If she can be like very confident that that's the case, she'll be attracted to you. And that one of those security things is, there's physically being able to defend her and defend yourself, but there's also like being able to provide, like knowing that she'll be able to provide for you her knowing that you'll be able to provide for her. Sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted here. Is attractive to women. There are other things too. I mean, that's like one of the main things, but like there's loads of other stuff, and a lot of those things actually relate back to that. That's like actually like the main thing that women are attracted to men for, is because they're going to have children with them and they want to feel comfortable doing that. So like, having muscles is related to that. Having being physically large is related to that. Having a lot of money is related to that. Like all these things are being a leader, that like other men listen to you and other men are influenced by you. All those things are all attractive to women because it's all related back to how comfortable can she be with having children with you. That's all women, Christian or not. However, Christian women are very different in how they deal with temptation, how they deal with sin, how they deal with their desires, how much they want to be attracted to you, how much they demand. All of those things are a lot more even-keeled and reasonable and realistic than women who are not. So you are competing against other men. But also, that's another good. Actually, it's a good example. Is that with Christian women, you're not really competing against other men nearly as much, because they believe, as you do, that when you marry someone, you stay with them for the rest of your life. So really, once she's picked you and you've picked her, there's no more competition after that. However, if you marry a woman who's not a Christian, you're going to be in competition with every single man that pretty much sees her for the rest of her life and the rest of your life, and that will be pretty brutal, like constant pressure, constant competition, constant difficulty. And that's somewhat true even if you marry a Christian woman, but it's a little bit different in that the Christian woman at least is actively trying to resist all those temptations, and you can help her to do that as well. Like the two of you can work together to basically prevent her from trying to cheat or talking to guys that she might cheat with, or doing all these other things, to focus on Christ, right? Actually, for the Christian, Christ is the prize. Christ is the gift. Christ is what you want to focus on. For MGTOW, it's So that's the prize thing. It's not actually totally correct as well. It's this. If you become once you become a Christian and you learn more about Christian doctrine, you realize actually there are some subtleties in that idea. It's not really meant to be that. Like again, you're not really meant to be like thinking of yourself as the prize. It's really supposed to be you're leading your wife, and the two of you are following Christ, and you're leading her to Christ, and Christ is leading you through life, right? As you follow him. So that's kind of why you're the prize, is because if you're letting her lead you, forget it. It's like she'll leave you. Like no woman wants that, to be the leader. That's actually just totally unacceptable for a secular woman or for a Christian woman. So that's more so it. It's not really, the prize is not really the right idea. It's basically, a lot of guys think that they should be chasing after women and letting them lead them, when the reality is actually you should be leading, and they will follow you. Actually, if they see that you're a person who's doing what you're supposed to do, they'll just kind of show up and follow you. And that's happened to me many times in my life. I've actually literally had women follow me around the supermarket. Like attractive young women that just like follow me around. What's happened with it? Just follow me around. I notice they're following me around, and it's like, okay, no thank you. I appreciate that, but no thank you. So yeah, that's kind of the prize thing, what they're talking about. It's because for a lot of young guys, they kind of get it mixed up, and they think that they should be chasing after women, but the reality is that women will actually pursue you. Really, the way it's supposed to be done is that you somehow come in contact with a woman, and it really should be the parents that kind of sort this out, where you're kind of too young to take care of yourself and a family, but you have a family that helps take care of you, is raising you. Similarly for her, she has a father and she has a family that's raising her and taking care of her. The two of you get together when you're relatively young. Your two families meet each other, and you decide, okay, do I want to give my daughter to this family's son? Right? That's kind of the decision that the father or the daughter makes. Is that do I want to marry my daughter to this man's son? That's really the context that it should be in. In my opinion, I think that's the correct way to understand the Christian sort of ideal, and you can find like verses in Exodus, for instance, to kind of understand what God said about relationships and marriage and things, and it very much is like the decision of the fathers for their son and their daughter. Really, it's the father actually of the daughter that makes the decision, it seems, but yeah, the father gives his daughter to a man that's worthy, more or less, and it's permanent, right? Like they basically court for a while, they don't sleep with each other, they get to know each other, and then he marries her, and then there you go, now you have a wife. And presumably these families are guiding their children in such a way that they can actually provide for their family. They're not just kind of, like in my case, my family fell apart. I grew up in a broken home. My dad lost everything. My mom left him. I think he lost everything largely because of his relationship with my mom. I think it really broke down, and I think it caused him a lot of grief, and caused it to be very difficult for him to be able to function and continue to kind of run his business. And that's a whole long story, but we'll just say I actually think the reason my family fell apart is because they were not Christians, and so I naturally fell apart too. Like I couldn't pursue a woman, and I didn't even know what the right thing to do was, and I couldn't even do the right thing because again it was just a mess. My dad wasn't even a Christian, and I wasn't even aware that I was supposed to be finding a woman for marriage like that. I thought it was like what my dad was doing, which was go make a ton of money and then sleep with women that just want to sleep with you because you have a lot of money. Like I understood that's what I got from my parents when seeing their relationship and what they did and what they seemed to want. Basically, I thought that I needed to go make $1 billion and go sleep around with a lot of women. That was all I understood, which was totally wrong. But yeah, anyway, so rambling on a bit here. MGTOW say to have fun with women, but not to get into long-term relationships or cohabitate with them. But I understand that is reality for evolutionary biology, which conflicts with divine law. Yeah, actually, even evolutionary biology is like not really correct. Yeah, it totally contradicts with divine law. Yeah, no, the MGTOW thing is not right. The pump and dump and all that stuff, all that is just really degenerate and wrong. And not good for anybody in the long term. So what I want to say about women, evolutionary. So a few things. So evolutionary biology is like not correct because evolution itself mathematically doesn't work. You can prove that macroevolution mathematically is not possible. So it's actually just not true. And therefore evolutionary biology is something of a fraud as well. But the thing to talk about is that I want to talk about is that men and women are very different. But here's the thing with men and women, and particularly men that are secular, right? Men that are in the world. Young women from about 18 to 28, they're beautiful, young, and fertile, right? And those are like the three main things that men are interested in, right? Like that's what attracts, for the most part, attracts men to women. That's what they're looking for: fertility, youth, and beauty. Though all three of those things fade away in that 10-year period. Slowly but surely they fade. Once she's about 28, that's when you really notice that, like, oh, she does not look anything like her 18-year-old counterparts or her 18-year-old self. She looks very different 10 years later. And that's because all three of those things basically have faded away. They haven't faded away completely, but they've faded significantly. I would say that's the point where it's very clear that like she's no longer has those qualities. The reason I bring that up is that women basically spend most of their lives without those qualities, even if they had them when they were young. So, a woman might live to be 70 years old, and we're talking from 18 to 28. That's 30 of 70 years. So 40 years is actually past that point. So all women spend most of their lives not young, beautiful, and fertile. So what does that mean about men and women? It means that actually marrying a woman is a tremendous sacrifice for a man if that's all he's interested in, are those three things. In fact, most men, not only do they not realize that they're not getting those three things for most of her life, but you really do need to be like a Christian to survive a marriage, because you're not going to want to stay with her if the only reason you married her is for those three things, and those three things are gone for most of her life, and you're married to her for all of her life, then you're not going to want to be here with her for most of the marriage, which is basically true of the world. You notice that all these people get married, get divorced. A lot of them don't even get married. Like for the most part, the secular world pretty much can't handle marriage, and that's pretty much wise, because the reason they marry women is not because they're interested in God and doing the right thing. It's because they're interested in themselves and those three things that they want, which are not going to be there for very long. And then once it's gone, they don't really like her very much, and then they get divorced. And that's I think why a lot of people get divorced is because the women basically, I think that's why a lot of the women cheat, really, is that I think the women want the guy because the guy validates her, and the guy validates her because she has those three things. And then when she gets older, he no longer pays attention to her because she doesn't have those three things. So he's still married to her, but he doesn't really care as much. He's a lot less attentive. So like, young guys, when they're dealing with really beautiful young women, they'll freaking do backflips for these women. I mean, they'll bend over backwards. They will, they'll basically put themselves prostrate on the floor and let these women walk over them, kind of a thing. I mean, the amount of attention that young women get from men is astounding. However, once those women have aged, that's no longer the case. So they get their egos just get blown out of this universe when they're young, especially from their husband. Their husband is probably just all over her, just everything she wants, everything everything she does, he's just totally beside himself. And then she gets older and slowly starts to notice that he's no longer doing those kinds of things anymore. He's no longer extremely interested. He's no longer bending over backwards. He's no longer letting her, walk over him on the floor or whatever it might be. He's no longer doing all these crazy things because he's so enamored with her. All of that's basically stopped. And I think for a lot of these women who are not Christian, because they're selfish, right? That's why they got married to this guy, is because they liked how he would treat her. She notices that, and then she starts to decide to go look for that elsewhere. Basically, tries to start dating other men, start flirting with other men, start looking for that attention from other men, and she'll get it. I mean, she'll get older women will be able to cheat with younger guys because younger guys will sleep with her. But she doesn't understand that it's not the same kind of attention. It's not the same thing that she was getting when she was younger, and so it's this kind of grasping for what she used to have, and that's why she cheats, and then that destroys the man because now he's got a wife that cheated on him. And so that's kind of the thing, is that if you're not a Christian from the get-go, if you're not a Christian, then you're not going to treat your wife the right way, because basically she should never even notice that the level of attention changed. It shouldn't be this like crazy upfront attention and then it disappears after relatively short period of time, right? 10 years compared to 60 that you might be married for. It shouldn't even be like that, where it's this huge amount of attention that just drops off really hard, or relatively speaking, pretty hard. It should actually just be level the whole way through. That you love each other because you're both pursuing Christ, and so she shouldn't have that kind of shock, first off. And second, she also, even if she did have a bit of a shock as she got older and realized that, my husband's not really as attentive as he used to be. He's a Christian, so he was always pretty attentive, but even, I still notice it. Even if she does feel like that, because she's a Christian, she should still love her husband anyway. She should know with certainty that she should not be trying to look for this attention elsewhere, that she should be really focused on her husband, even if it is more difficult as they're getting older, and that she wouldn't be selfish, right? And that's the whole point, is that he's not selfish and she's not selfish, and so it works. So the two of them can stay together and they can actually make it all the way. But if you have two selfish people who might get married, it won't work. Like, it literally will fail, almost guaranteed. Because what she's looking for in him is going to fade away, and what he's looking for in her is going to fade away, and it'll just fall apart. So that's a sad reality of all the people who are Christians, all the people who are supposed to be Christians, but they're not Christians and they reject God. That's actually one of the main ways that God tests you, as far as like, doesn't just test you, but your repentance, like the most significant form of repentance is actually how you deal with sexual sin. So as a man, saving yourself from marriage; as a woman, saving yourself from marriage; and then once you actually get married, focusing on Christ and your union as a promise before God, and staying together for reasons that are not selfish, right? Focusing on having children and taking care of those children and taking care of each other and loving each other, and not and then not in a grotesque, like, over the top way that, like, if you don't keep that up, that your spouse is going to wonder what happened, where you have to basically be on like a treadmill all the time where you can't actually keep up, but like in a way that's righteous and prudent and temperate and can make it all the way until death. That's actually what repentance, for the, like, I would say, like the main way that you repent in your life is actually how you court your wife and how you treat your wife and how you treat your children and how you basically live as a family. I think that is like the main way that repentance is sort of shown in a person's life. And the reason for that, by the way, why I think that is because of all the analogies to marriage that are in the Bible. Basically, we are the bride of Christ. So, pretty much marriage has been chosen as like the symbol of Christianity. So it really is like the most important, beyond becoming a Christian in the first place, it is like the most important thing you can do in your life is how you get married, how you treat your wife, how you behave before you got married, how you behave after you get married, how you treat your children, and then obviously how you do at your job in order to facilitate those other things. That's that, and the craziest thing is and again we're talking about the world. Like, if that's the most important thing in your life, aside from being a Christian, it's amazing how much the world doesn't even talk about that at all, right? It's like it's totally irrelevant to the world. The world doesn't even think about marriage as an important thing. It's like, for the world, it's a total side note to whatever chaos they're getting up to, and that's kind of one of the ways you could see that the prince being the prince of the power of the air is the devil, and like that's one of the ways he has influence, is that the world doesn't even think marriage is really even like worth it, right? Whereas Christians view marriage as like sacred. It is sacred. I mean, it's a promise before God. It's actually like one of the most it's probably the most important promise you could ever make to God, aside from repenting and believing in Christ. But the repenting part really is, like, for the most part, modeled by marriage, by getting married, by keeping yourself pure until you get married, and then treating your wife righteously even as she ages, and then treating your children well to make sure they're provided for. Just those three things alone are like extremely difficult. Well, not extremely difficult, but like, you'll be an extremely, I guess there's a lot of fruit there if you can just do those three things. There's a tremendous amount of fruit in your life. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on about that, but that's something that's like it's something extremely important about marriage and women and men, and I kind of wanted to touch on some of those things. MGTOW is selfishness. I'm okay with Sunrise Hoodie, for example, because he's a Christian who is clearly going his own way from marriage, but I just want to be single and godly without identifying as MGTOW. Yeah, fair enough. I would agree with you. I think that's the right thing to do. I wouldn't even call yourself a MGTOW. I think it's not a good idea. I used to, but like call myself MGTOW, but I think it's better to just say I'm a Christian and just say that, and not put like an extra label on me, because it's lost a lot of the meaning. Like, first thing, MGTOW has lost a lot of meaning. Like, it's kind of doesn't mean the same thing that it used to mean. And then the other second part is I don't really need that, and there are elements of it that I don't actually agree with, which kind of are the elements that kind of cause it to lose its meaning. But something about Sunrise Hoodie you should know: he's not perfect. He says he's a Christian, but there's a lot of things that he gets incorrect theologically. Like, for instance, the Jezebel spirit. Another Christian explained to me, he said, no, look, there's no Jezebel spirit in the Bible. Like, that's not a real thing. There is no such thing. The people who repeat that are actually people who are theologically weak in their doctrine. They're not paying attention enough to their Bible. They're not reading their Bible enough. And I actually knew that. When he said that to me, I was like, yeah, I actually knew that the Bible doesn't say anything about Jezebel spirit. The Bible talks about Jezebel, but there is no Jezebel spirit in the Bible. And I thought it was maybe like I kind of excused myself thinking that, like, well, maybe it was like a metaphor for like someone who's like Jezebel. But no. Spirits are like the Holy Spirit in the Scripture is actually a person, right? Like the Holy Spirit is God as a person, it's personhood. So spirits are actually like people, like living things. So there is no Jezebel spirit. She's dead. I mean, she's been dead a long time. There's no spirit of Jezebel lingering around. And Sunrise Hoodie has a Jezebel spirit video, which implies that he himself has doctrinal, theological errors, which it's fine to have those things. Like, it's not a big deal. However, it's a serious problem if you're not interested in fixing those errors. Like, in other words, if he leaves that video up for years and years and years and doesn't comment on it or later or just make a disclaimer or take it down or something, where he actually finds out that basically finds another Christian that tells him, like, hey, you need to re-examine your views here, your faith. If he's not doing that, like, I don't think he's necessarily, one, he's not a good source for theology, right? Like, certainly he's not. If you're going to him because of his theology is flawed. So you're better off just reading the Bible, and you're better off finding like a minister who's really trying to stick to the Bible. That's the first thing. Second thing, if you're just listening to him just because it's interesting, like, that's fine, but like, you might still be better off listening to the Bible or reading the Bible. I realize the Bible might not be as interesting, but any wisdom that he can give you, I guess that's the other thing, is like, if you're doing it for wisdom, so it's really only two options, right? Three options. You have, you're going there for theology, which you shouldn't. I just told you shouldn't, and here's why. If you're going there for entertainment, I mean, there's like, I guess so. I mean, so if you want. And the other one is going there for, but if he has bad theology, you probably don't want to go there for entertainment either. But the other one is wisdom. But the Bible gives you way better wisdom than anybody ever could. So you should go to the Bible really for at least two out of those three of those things. And if you're going to go there for entertainment, like, I wouldn't recommend getting entertained too much by people who have poor biblical doctrine. The reason for that is that what you view about doctrine affects all of the decisions you make in your life. So you're going to kind of start to pick up things from people like passively, like by osmosis, just by interacting with them or paying attention to them or those kinds of things. You'll start to become like them, and they'll start to become like you if they have some interaction with you. And you don't want to pick up like the kinds of things that people do when they have bad theology. So I'd warn you away from that as well. So that's kind of why I stopped paying attention too much to Sunrise Hoodie. I like him. I like what he does, but I don't think he's the best as far as like theology and like theology, entertainment, and wisdom. Like the wisdom, I mean, it really should be the Bible. Should be your source of wisdom, and then theology again should be your source, really the Bible. Like I said, I know that you can see that he's not spending enough time correcting his theology, because he would have had the same realization that I had. He would have came across the same thing that I came across, that said, no, the Jezebel spirit's not in the Bible. The people that repeat that are actually people who are not paying enough attention to their Bibles. And that's true. That's exactly what was true. Like, I actually had noticed that that's the truth, and I didn't say anything because I thought, like, well, maybe these people knew a little bit more than I did. But no, it's not that they knew more about the Bible than I did. It's that they knew less. That's why they were saying these things. And then the other part was, entertainment. Like, I wouldn't recommend entertaining yourself with people who are sort of not as Christian as you think they probably should be. Just because you're going to pick up things that you probably shouldn't be picking up. Like, for instance, I actually picked up that there was a Jezebel spirit from him. Like, he's one of the people. That's why I was repeating it, why I was talking about it. It's because of him and people like him, because they themselves were not correct in their theology, and I took their word for it, and then I started repeating things that weren't true. So that's actually a good example of like why I stopped kind of listening to him a little bit, because I was like, yeah, man, like I need the Bible, like I need Christ. I don't need MGTOW, I don't need, Sunrise Hoodie, I don't need these other people, I need Christ. I'm willing to give up everything, right? I mean, I don't need any of these other things. The other things are not as important. Again, I would encourage Sunrise Hoodie to repent and reflect and all of that. Basically, the repenting would be just focus more on scripture and try to find, correct yourself. Try to find those corrections. Try to find people who disagree with you about, biblical doctrine and find out why, and if they're correct about it, change your view, change it, and according to Scripture, right? Don't, the things, the assumptions you've made about the Bible, examine them. Keep examining yourself. The Bible says to do that. Keep examining yourself. So I haven't given up on Sunrise Hoodie, but I have taken a bit of a hiatus from watching his videos for a while. So it also bothers me that MGTOWs also say that love is a lie and that it conflicts with logic and reason, another sign that is more suited for atheist agnostics. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, no, marriage is like the epitome of love. Marriage is actually the best expression and example of love as you can possibly understand, or possibly know or experience in your life. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about it's a promise before God, and it's a very unselfish thing, and you're doing it to have children. That's the main reason you get married. And basically, children, when you have children, your whole life becomes about your children. You pretty much die. There's a certain death that happens to you when you have children, because it's not about you anymore. It's about the children and taking care of them and raising them and all that. So there's that too. Yeah. Let me move on from the subject though, because we could talk about this at great length, and we just read that from Scripture that where there's constant talking, there's poverty, right? So we don't want to be wasting our time chatting, right? We want to work as much as we can. So let's do that. Yeah, let's focus because I have to get a job, I also need to sleep. I have an interview tomorrow. I have one interview tomorrow. I'm going to meet up with a recruiter tomorrow and then interview later. I think tomorrow I'm going to spend some more time as well while I'm working. But yeah, I'm suddenly realizing hey man, I can't shirk my duties here. I need to work. But yeah, we could talk about it at length. But I do want to say thank you for listening to me talk about these things. And I appreciate you bringing these things up and chatting and talking about it, because they're extremely important things, and the things that the world is just totally unaware of and not to their benefit. It's very much a detriment to these folks. So my question is, how come this JavaScript isn't doing what I would expect it to do, right? Because I'm expecting it to write something to the output here, and it's not. Now what's interesting is if we go to, I've actually solved one of these problems already. If we go to create a button, we can look at the JavaScript code. I have already written something with JavaScript code. Add event listener, click event, yeah, this is fine. But if I shift I here, and we go down here, and we say, so this one works, right? If we render, we click this button, and it'll do what we expect, right? My question is, if I add just console.log hello world, and also here's another one, console.log, is this thing on? If we do this, and we render, hello world gets printed, and if I press this button, yeah, this works. So that's kind of the thing I'm very confused about. That's what I'm expecting over here, but it's not happening. I mean, I'm not even getting hello world over here. Now maybe it's because this is wrong. Maybe this fails and this causes an issue, because it needs to be a string. Yeah, see, that's really weird. This should happen too, right? Like something really odd is going on here, and I don't know what it is. It should be just you render, and you get this hello world here. It's just not happening. So that's really strange. the JavaScript is here, right? Buttons grid.js, source type. Maybe this tag is wrong. Maybe that's what it is. I have to compare it to the other example to find out what's wrong. Programming can be kind of weird sometimes. Like debugging things could be very strange because you don't necessarily know how to debug something, depending on the tech. Oh, that's why. That is what's wrong. I see. Okay. Yep, that's my mistake. Yeah, see, that's why you gotta practice too. Because you don't make mistakes like that when you practice. It's not JavaScript, it's just script. It's just script. And now it should work. Hello world. There we go. Okay. And now we can... Alright, that's much better. Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of the impression I got. It was as if the script wasn't being run at all. And there you go. That's why. It wasn't. Alrighty, neat. Okay, so we can now go back here and set our on-click routine. Yes, I got stuck for a while trying to figure that out. And let's just see if this works. There we go. Hey, look at that. Okay. Alright, so when we click that button, this is now like the behavior part of the problem that we want to solve. So what we want to happen ideally is we want to have each button moves its inner HTML to the next button. So we have a sort of a for loop. I guess what we can do is just say like const buttons. And we'll just have a loop of button 1, and this is going to be button. Yeah, so we're going to have sort of I have an idea. Button 1, button 2. Can actually even do like I have an idea. Maybe let's do let buttons be an array. We're going to say for we want to do a simple loop, right? It says I equals 1 to I is less than, I think we have 9, right? Plus I. We're going to use just a basic loop in JavaScript. And we're going to say buttons.push of button plus I, as long as I is not 5, we're going to push onto these buttons. So now we have this array of buttons. And then when we click, what we want to do is we actually want these to go kind of in a clockwise direction. So 1, 2, 3 is what we want. Do it this way. The first row. And then we want next thing to be 3, 6, 9. So it's going to be I 3 times I. It's actually going to be from 2, so it'll be 6, 9. Actually, I don't know if we should do it this way. Maybe we should just, it's probably better to just do it this way. Yeah. Do like, yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 8, 7. We're going to basically hard code the clockwise direction. 9, 8, 7. That should be 4, and then back to 1. So this is the sort of clockwise direction, and then we're going to just say for const x in buttons. Set buttons of, oh, actually, you kind of want to do it this way, I guess. I equals 0, I is less than buttons dot length plus I, buttons of I is equal to buttons of I plus, we're going to add this, programmatically add this button string. Okay, then we have all of our button our button array in the right order. And now what we want to do is say cycle through your buttons. Moving the inner HTML in a clockwise rotation. Just kind of explain it on a high level, but don't really go into the details of exactly what we're doing. So for each const button in buttons, or button in buttons, let's do it that way. Nice, thank you. Yeah, it's good. It's good feeling when you it's good feeling when you figure out a problem, figure out why it wasn't working. So for each button in buttons, what we're gonna do, not button in, by the way, it's of. In JavaScript, you gotta use of, you don't want to use in. What we want to do is we're gonna take, so we're gonna say temp equals document dot get element by ID of the button dot inner HTML, right? Temporarily save the inner HTML of this element, and then no, we actually want to do save the next element's inner HTML. I actually did this wrong too. So I equals 0, I is less than buttons dot length plus I. So the way it goes, this is going to be kind of interesting. Const button equals yeah. Okay. The next element's the inner HTML. So we could maybe do it this way. You can say button equals buttons of I, and button next button is buttons of I plus 1. Now, mind you, it's not just I plus 1. It's modulo buttons.length. We're just gonna say const n buttons, or n equals buttons.length, just because I think it's a little bit easier to read it this way. So the number of buttons is n, and we're gonna say modulo n. So we're gonna wrap around, right? Because clockwise it wraps back around. So we're gonna wrap back around to the first button. So we have our button, our next button, and these are gonna be strings, and then we're going to say the next element's inner HTML. So get element by ID, next button. We're going to update next element with the current button, HTML. So we say document get element. We could probably say ID is probably better to do it this way. Because you can do, yeah, okay. The reason I'm thinking that's better is because we probably want to do something like the following. Because this is a little bit clunky if we do it the other way. It's a bit clunky to have this string sort of like on every call. Excuse me. So button ID and next button ID. Okay. So here we go. So now we have button dot inner HTML. Update the next element with the next button. Oops. Next button with the current button HTML. So we're going to say next button is going to be equal to, so this is the next button's inner HTML. There we go. Now we're going to update this to our current buttons, HTML, inner HTML. And the tricky thing here, though, is it's not our current buttons HTML. It's actually this temp is what we want to use. So that's really confusing. I guess what we would say is the previous. So we'll do it this way. We'll do let previous be. This is a little bit confusing how to do this. You actually want the button you're looking at to be set to the previous values. So we want to do something like the following. Yeah. So we're gonna take the previous one, that element, we're gonna set that to be previous, and we're gonna update this element with the previous element, and then set that element to the previous element, and then update this one with that one, and this one with that one. So it rotates everything, and then we're gonna come back here and update this one with that previous. So it all rotates appropriately. So we start with the back one as the previous. And then we actually say, so actually this is a little bit easier. This, we don't need to look at the next button. We just say button ID, button, save. So save the buttons. Save the buttons inner HTML. Update the buttons inner HTML, the previous buttons, inner HTML, update the previous variable, now the buttons HTML 4, it was overwritten. Also, I like to have periods on my comments. So now we can say previous equals temp. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. And yeah, I think that's it. Just like that. Oh, not quite. Uncaught type error. Get element by ID is null. Oh, that what happened? Oh no. Did I do this wrong? Maybe I did. Oh, this is, oh no. Wait, what? Let's debug it. Let's try that one. Oh, nothing printed. Wait, what? Okay, yeah, that's what we're expecting. So it's actually here, it's the problem. But does that not work with the arrays and JavaScript. There's an operator. Trying to there's the array access. Okay, here we go. I guess you can't do that in JavaScript. Maybe that's the problem. I know you can do that in Ruby and Python, but I guess you can't do that in JavaScript. Was not expecting that. Oh, look at that. Temp is not defined. Actually, this is a constant. Temp is not defined. It's right here. What do you mean it's not defined? Well, that's good to see that, but what is going on? Temp is not defined. It's right here. What do you mean it's not defined? Oh, it's working. Okay, we got it. I was gonna say, it's like it's pretty sure it is. That took a while. Is it right though? I think so. It looks right. Doesn't have the same visual that this does. This looks a little funky here, but it's working. Yeah, it took a while, but we got there. 2.5 hours. Yeah, I only want to spend like an hour, but that's okay. So I think it's right. So we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 8, 7, 4. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Pretty simple. Question though is, I don't think this looks right as far as the CSS. 75% relative to the document's body's width to its container width. This is 75%, and these are supposed to be 30% of the container width. Let's see if we can do 30% of the container width. Let's see what it says about width. Available space replaced by the specified argument, min, max content, max min content, like the percentage. Oh, block containing blocks with. Okay. Interesting. So what's weird is it's supposed to be a 3x3, but I don't know how exactly we're supposed to achieve that, or how we're intended to achieve that. I don't know. I'm afraid to submit it because I think it'll be the wrong answer. Alright, let's try it. Let's see what, I don't think it'll be correct. But I don't know what to do. Assuming it's not correct. Oh. Oh, accepted, okay. Oh. Alright, we did it right. Sweet. Okay, that was it. Nice. That really shouldn't have taken so much time, but there we go. So, why, how did we do this again? It's pretty simple. We can get rid of this, I think. And yeah, basically just hard code the sequence of buttons and then just cause whatever the inner HTML is to be moved to the next button. And you just save the previous value, which is going to be n-1, and just kind of push them all forward. And that way, I don't even know how to explain that, express that, but it's a pretty simple thing. But yeah, there we go. All right, not bad. Pretty simple exercise. Sweet, sweet. I thought that was going to be a lot more difficult, but that wasn't too bad. All right. Classes. In this challenge, we practice using JavaScript classes. Check the attached tutorial for more details. Create a polygon class that has the following properties: a constructor that takes an array of integer values describing the lengths of the polygon sides. Perimeter method returns the polygon's parameter. Perimeter. Lot code. Constructor perimeter method. Perimeter method must be lowercase and spelled correctly. No input. Perimeter method must return the polygons. Side length. Pass the constructor. Excuse me. Set the following code. Perimeter 12. Polygon class. Following properties. Constructor takes an array of side lengths. Perimeter method returns the sum of the polygon side lengths. Sure. Can we just do this? Does that work? Okay. I think you need a function to name this. Oh. What's the issue? what is the syntax for this? What am I looking for? Classes. Excuse me. Oh, you don't name it a function. You just, that's it. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's a sum for arrays. Or reduce. Left to right, right to left. So you reduce left, reduce right. Okay. Doesn't have like a sum though. I guess we have to reduce then. Okay, fine. Say side lengths, reduce. And what is the reducer? So previous current. Okay, could do that. So reducer is going to be just e or previous current to p plus c. I think that's all you need. Try that. Oh. What? There we go. Let's go for it. Does it give us an initial? Oh yeah, okay, the initial value is the next. Arrow function, callback function, inline callback, initial value. Yeah, so after the callback, you have an initial value. Yeah, I like that. Really, this should be 0. Yep, okay, great. That's what we want. Let's find one we haven't solved yet. Bitwise operators. Binary calculator. Alright, let's do bitwise operators. Today we're practicing bitwise operators, operations. Check the attached tutorial for more details. Today we define S to be a sequence of distinct sequential numbers from 1 to n. In other words, S equals 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to n. We want to know the maximum bitwise and value of any two integers, a and b, in the sequence that is also less than a given integer, k. Excuse me, complete the function in the editor so that the given n, n and k, it returns the maximum a and b less than k. The and so represents the bitwise and operator. Excuse me, there might be some fancy maths you can do here to do this more efficiently, but I don't think we're looking for a more efficient. First line contains integer q, number of function calls, defines a data set for a function call in the form of two space separated integers describing the respective values of n and k. Oh, actually, this is kind of hard. If n is 1,000, and we do this query 1,000 times, we can't just do a simple, what do they call it? There's like a simple, excuse me. There's like a simple way to do this where you what was I even saying? There is a simple way to do this where the naive approach, where you just take n choose 2 pairs, check if those are less than k, and then take the maximum of all those values that are also less than k, right? For each of those pairs, compute the and value, and then check if it's less than k. And if you did that, that would be quadratic. It's for each n, and so that would be quadratic for each n. And so, actually, yeah, quadratic for each n. Well, since you're ANDing them, actually, we know that a and b is going to be less than or equal to the larger of a and b. So really you could just do O of k, but still, O of k would be, it's O of k squared times q, which gives you a billion, which is expensive, to the maximum possible value a and b, less than k for any less than a less than b in sequence s. So 1, 4, 0, okay. So n is 2 and k is 2. So really this is I think it's powers of 2. How they explain it. We'll go through the explanations in a moment, but first thing, I think it's powers of 2, and second, I think the reason why it doesn't make sense for, hold on, so 5 and 2 we get 1. If you take 2 minus 2 and 1, excuse me, I think it's 0, right? If you, yeah, well, if you're looking at, oh, no, I see. The value is less than k. I think I understand. So 5 being greater than 2, you can AND in such a way where you get 2, exactly 2. No, excuse me, you get 1. I'm sorry, you can't get 2. For whatever reason, you can't get 2. Why can't you get 2? You just need 2 numbers that have a 2 in them. 4 doesn't have a 2. 5 doesn't have a 2. Oh, I see. Excuse me, the best you can do is a 1. Okay, that's very interesting. The powers of 2 that you have are 2 and 1. So if you do a and a minus 1, if it's equal to 0, then it's a power of 2. Then a is a power of 2. Yeah, that's not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for the largest bits, the largest integer that's less than k. Excuse me. How do we find that quickly? Well, it needs to be a number. So actually you can do bit by bit, I think, and you just check each bit against every number in n and say, and you just do all of the bits that are less than k, I guess, less than or equal to k. That's kind of a tricky thing too, because k is not necessarily a power of 2. Excuse me, and you're also looking for as many bits as you can get, really, as close as you can get to k. So that's really interesting. I think I gotta think about this for a while. This is kind of a hard question, actually. I don't know why this says easy. I don't think this is easy at all. From a maths perspective, this is a really challenging question. Unless it's supposed to be like the really brute force, simple approach you're supposed to take. -5, k is 2, we have the following. 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1, 4. Maximum is also less than k is 1. 8, 5, see the table above. So we return 4. B is 5. A is 1. B is 5. Oh, I see. A you can do, A is 2, 3, 4, 5. B is 2, 3, 4, 5. A is 3. B is 4, 5. Right. Quadratic number of pairs. And then you can keep going here. When n is 8, you can increase this table. And you get 4. Excuse me, right, well when k is 5, then the best you can do is 4. And then when dealing with 1, 2, the maximum is 0. That's it, right? Okay. Wow. Following 2 calls. 9, 2, and 8, 3. The best you can do is 1. And the best you can do for 8 is 2. I see. So I guess they want us to write this max less than k. So what's interesting about this is it looks like really this set of numbers probably it's always really just k minus 1. Potentially. Excuse me. Yeah, I think once you get us past a certain point, it's probably very close to k minus 1. Falling asleep over here too, by the way. Still have a few problems to solve here, though. So if you... Oh boy, I'm so sleepy, so tired. If you have... k minus 1, what are we dealing with? What are we talking about here? Yeah. Excuse me, I mean, k could be n. K could actually be n. Well, it has to be less than, right, it has to be less than k. So n minus 1 could be n minus 1. Yeah, if you're considering, if we did 8 and 8,
and k could be at most 7, then in order to be at 7, you'd have to have the first 3 bits would have to be set. So there has to be 2 numbers with those 3 bits set for 8, and you'd have 7 as those 3 bits set. But actually 8 doesn't have those 3 bits set. Actually, if you, well, no, that's, it is possible in some cases to just have n-1 where, like if you had 9 and 8, 9 and 9, you can do 8, because if you do 9 and 8, you'll have the 8th bit set, right? So that's, I think the 4th bit is 8, 2 to the 3rd, yeah, that's the 4th bit. And so the 4th bit will be set to 8, and then for 9, the 4th bit plus 1 will also be set, so you can do 8 and 9 and get 8, and so that'll give you 9 and 9 gives you 8. Well, that's not necessarily always the case. How about why? Yeah. So what I want to say is that most of the time it's just k minus 1. Excuse me, which I think is probably true. Probably true. That you generally do have all the numbers you need up to a given point. So if you have 3, let's say, for instance, just the first 2 bits set, anything that has another, that basically ends with 3 bits, you'll have that 3 will be present. So I think you need to add 4 for those bits. You need to add the first number. So the first number that has the same bits as the number you're looking at is going to be the first 0 when you fill that number. And that pair is going to give you that number. So that's sort of, it's not like not an identity, but it's kind of like an identity over the AND operator. The least significant 0, you add that power of 2 to the number that you're interested in, and then that's how you get each number. That's how you can guarantee each number is present in that set. So what I would suggest actually is to go, really you can just take k and then just decrement k repeatedly. Each time you decrement k, check if n is greater than or equal to the value you need for k to exist in that set, and just go from the largest k to the smallest k. And so you could say, now the tricky thing about that is how do you find the least significant bit that's also a 0? I think what you can do is you can, how do you get that integer? So if you, I think first thing you want to do is remove all of the, well, okay, so if you add a 1, then you'll have 0s until the most significant bit. Right. Okay. However, that's great, but you also want to take everything to the left of that bit. You want to remove. So what do? What you can do is you can add 1 and XOR that. And what will happen is, no, that's not really what you want to do either. How do we achieve this here? We want that next bit, it's just add 1, but we also want to remove all of the bits to the left. Falling asleep over here. Oh, I have an idea. What if you add 1 and then OR that with the original, and now that bit is flipped on, and then you XOR that result with the original, and now everything except for that bit will be off. Oh, there you go. Done. Haha. Got it. So, okay, you ready for this? I have an idea. You can do this in linear with respect to k, and that should be sufficient. So, I'm going to bed. Okay. All right. Take care, Melito. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day. It was good chat with you. I appreciate you coming by, saying hello. Yeah, I need to go to sleep as well. All right. I have the solution. I figured it out. So we're gonna say for I equals k, I is greater than or equal to 2. So we'll say let ret equals 0. Actually, we don't really need that. Okay, we're gonna say oh no. K minus 1, I is greater than or equal to 1. Yes. Yeah, we'll do it this way. So we say if, so we'll say const least significant 0. Excuse me, least significant 0. It's going to be the original value, which is n, or no, I, and it's going to be, you're going to OR that with I plus 1,
right? So I ORed with I plus 1. When you add 1 to I, it's going to take all of the 1s to the right. Those all become zeros, and the least significant 0 becomes a 1, right? And then when you OR all of these values, you get all those zeros back, although the least significant 0 becomes a 1. And then now if you take this, and you OR this, and you XOR this with I, what happens is everything except that least significant 0 is a 0 in I. All the other bits are the same, and it's a 1 in this construct. So when we XOR, that 0 and 1 becomes a 1, but everything else becomes zeros. And now we say if I plus least significant 0 is less than or equal to n, then we return I. And that ought to do it. Oh. Wait, what? Oh, you have to say let I equal k-1. Gotta declare your variables. All right, almost. What is that? Because right in these cases, 0 so what happened here? How do we get that? What is that? That's 2 and 2. Okay. N is 2 and K is 2. I is equal to 1. I is greater than or equal to 1. Least significant 0 is 1 or 2. Or XOR with 1. So 1, 2, ORed 1, 1, XORed with 1 gives you 2. So I plus 2, which is 1. 3 is less than or equal to 2. It's not. Turns 0. Why are we returning 0? Why are we returning? Where do we get this number from? That underflowed. How did we underflow? Oh, overflowed. That's why. It's supposed to be the other direction. Ah, there we go. I think we got it. Let's try it. Hey, there we go. Sweet. Sweet. Alright, we got the calculator. What's left? Dates. I think we have one more after the calculator and the dates. This challenge to implement a calculator that uses binary numbers. Check out the attached tutorial for learning materials. Implement a simple calculator that performs the following operations on binary numbers: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Note that division operation must be integer division only. For example, 1001 divided by 100 equals 10. 1110 divided by 101 is 10. Oh, I see. That's confusing, but okay, I see. Binary calculator, alright. Element IDs. Each element in the document must have an ID specified below. Styling documents elements must have the following styles. Body has a width of 33%. Okay, there's a few specifications here. JS and CS are in different directories. All expressions in the test data set are entered in the form operand, operator, operand. Where operand is the first binary number, operand 2 is the second binary number, and operator is in the set. Operands will always be positive integers, converted from base 2 to base 10. All expressions will be valid. Following sequence of button clicks: 11011 plus 100. Div should look like this. Pressing equals evaluates the expression. Result div looks like this. Notice it's 27, 8 is 35. Next sequence, div, Looks like this. C11. This is so cool. This is so cool. Man, JavaScript is really a lot of fun. Web-based technologies, yeah, it's really a lot of fun. You can build your own programs that can interactive programs with a GUI through the web. I think that's really interesting. All right, how many more days do we have? How many more problems? I think I need to sleep. I think I need to sleep. So we have arrow functions, and we have. I think this is all we need to have left. We just have the binary calculator, the JavaScript dates, and the arrow functions, and then we're done. All right, it's just three left. Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Definitely interesting. Glad to kind of tinker with JavaScript again. I need to sleep too. It's definitely time for bed. I'm getting up kind of early tomorrow to speak with my recruiter. And what time am I getting up tomorrow? I have an interview tomorrow too. Oh, I see. I should be okay. That's fine. All right. Yeah, thank you again for watching. Talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe. I don't know what else I want to say here. Just thank you, I suppose. And yeah, take care. It's good. Also, again, Milito, it's good to chat with you. So yeah, all right. Have a good.